This morning, as the light of a new day breaks forth, we stand at the threshold of fresh possibilities, yet also unseen battles. Every sunrise is a reminder that God has given us another opportunity to shape destiny, to command the spiritual atmosphere, and to align our hearts with His purposes. The morning is not a casual moment, it is a spiritual gateway that determines the direction of our day. The morning is far more than a transition from night to day. It is a sacred moment when the realm of the spirit interacts with the realm of time. When a believer wakes up, they are not just opening their eyes to light. They are stepping into a battleground where decisions, declarations, and spiritual alignments begin to shape the outcome of their day. Many people rise casually, unaware that the morning carries a weight of responsibility. But those who understand spiritual things know that the first moments of the day carry the power to influence thoughts, actions, opportunities, and even battles that will unfold hours later. To awaken with spiritual responsibility is to recognize that each new day is a gift entrusted to us for purpose, for dominion, for intentional alignment with the will of God. Every morning presents a fresh canvas, but that canvas must be shaped. The believer cannot afford to wake up passively, waiting for life to dictate the atmosphere of the day. The adversary does not sleep. He does not wait for mid-afternoon to sow seeds of discouragement, confusion, or distraction. He speaks early. He attempts to plant fear early. He attempts to distort focus early. This is why the morning is not simply a natural moment. It is a time when spiritual forces are already at work, and the one who awakens must choose to engage or be carried away by whatever atmosphere dominates the day. To awaken with responsibility means to rise knowing that you are not stepping into a neutral day. You are stepping into a day that must be commanded. When a person rises in the morning, the first battle is not external. It is internal. The enemy understands that if he wins the first moments of your day, he gains influence over your thoughts, your responses, your clarity, and your peace. If your heart is not aligned, distractions settle easily. If your spirit is not stirred, discouragement takes advantage. If your mind is not renewed, old patterns try to reintroduce themselves. This is why spiritual sensitivity in the morning is crucial. It is the moment where your heart must be recalibrated. It is the hour where your spirit must be stirred. It is the time where your mind must be brought under the authority of God's truth. To do this is to recognize that your morning is your first altar of the day, and what you do upon that altar determines what burns throughout your day. There is something about those first quiet minutes of dawn that carry a unique spiritual rhythm. Heaven seems open. The voice of God seems clearer. The weight of His presence rests more gently on a heart that seeks Him early. These early moments are where instructions for the day are downloaded into the spirit. It is where strategies for upcoming decisions begin to form. It is where burdens are lifted before they ever find room to settle. To awaken with spiritual responsibility means you intentionally seek the one who governs the day before you face the demands of the day. It means understanding that revelation is not a luxury. It is a necessity for those who want to walk in power and purpose. There are battles you will never have to fight if you handle your morning correctly. There are decisions you will not regret if you receive divine guidance before stepping out. There are temptations you will not fall into if you fortify your spirit early. There are emotional storms you will not drown in if you anchor your heart before the winds of life begin to blow. This is why the morning is not a suggestion. It is a responsibility. It is a spiritual discipline for those who understand destiny. It is the time when you summon strength, not because you feel weak, but because you understand that a day without divine empowerment is a day vulnerable to unnecessary battles. Waking up with spiritual responsibility means rising with awareness that you are a gatekeeper of your own day. Your words open doors. Your silence creates space. Your declarations shape pathways. Your alignment with God positions angels to work on your behalf. Heaven responds to those who rise early with intention. The morning becomes a meeting place where you reaffirm your dependence on God, and He releases grace for everything awaiting you. Even creation seems to acknowledge the power of the morning. The sun rises with consistency, nature responds with freshness, and time resets itself as if to say, begin again, but begin wisely. Awakening with responsibility also means acknowledging that every new day carries assignments. Some days will require extraordinary wisdom. Some will require unusual patience. Some will place you before opportunities that can alter your destiny. Others may confront you with resistance or unexpected challenges. But when the spirit is aligned in the morning, nothing that comes later overwhelms you. You become stable, discerning, and spiritually alert. You move through the day not as one reacting to circumstances, but as one who has already addressed them in the presence of God. To embrace the morning with spiritual responsibility is to stand as a watchman over your own life. It is to rise with determination that you will not allow the day to unfold randomly. It is to acknowledge that before you speak to men, you must speak to God. Before you confront tasks, you must confront the atmosphere. Before you make decisions, you must receive direction. This is the posture of those who understand that destiny is too precious to be left to chance, and the morning is too powerful to be wasted. The power of first words in the morning is one of the most underestimated spiritual principles in the life of a believer. Many rise and let their first thoughts wander, their first emotions dictate their posture, and their first words spill out carelessly. Yet these early expressions carry tremendous influence over the spiritual climate of their day. The first words you release are not just sounds, they are seeds. They travel into the atmosphere, shaping mood, perception, and spiritual alignment even before you fully step out into the responsibilities of the day. Every kingdom operates by laws, and one of the laws that governs the believer's walk is the law of confession. What you speak consistently becomes what you experience progressively. And the morning is the most delicate moment for this law because it is the moment when your spirit is most impressionable and your day is still spiritually unformed. When you speak in the morning, you are not merely venting emotion or making casual statements. You are authorizing spiritual realities. You are opening gates or closing them. You are initiating cycles of faith or cycles of fear. The words that come out of your mouth at dawn have a way of echoing throughout the rest of your day, influencing how you respond to situations, how you interpret challenges, and how you position yourself mentally and spiritually. There is a reason the enemy wages subtle warfare over your first thoughts and first words. If he can poison the beginning of your day with discouragement, anxiety, frustration, or fear, he weakens your posture for the rest of the day. He seeks to make you speak what you feel instead of what is true, what is temporary instead of what is eternal. But when a believer understands the power of first words, morning becomes an altar where destiny is shaped, not a moment where weakness is expressed. Your first words are prophetic. They travel ahead of you. When you rise and declare peace, you authorize peace to govern your steps. When you speak strength, you set the tone for resilience. When you speak clarity, confusion loses its foothold. When you speak victory, the atmosphere begins to align with triumph. But when you complain, when you speak fear, when you confess defeat, you set in motion cycles that work against you. This is why the wise rise with intentionality. They know that words are not empty, they are building blocks of the day. To treat morning declarations casually is to leave your day unguarded and your spirit unprepared. It is in the morning that your heart is most honest. Before the demands of the day press in, before responsibilities require focus, your spirit is receptive. This receptivity makes your morning words powerful because you speak from a place of spiritual sensitivity. If the first thing you do is to thank God, gratitude shapes your lens for the rest of the day. If the first thing you do is surrender your plans, you position yourself for divine interruptions and divine leading. If the first thing you do is declare scripture, truth wraps around your mind like armor, shielding you from emotional instability or mental assault. Morning words are not simply expressions of faith. They are shields, commands, and spiritual frameworks. The spiritual realm also responds quickly to early declarations. Angels are ministering spirits, and they act upon words aligned with God's purpose. When you speak faith-filled declarations, you are not simply motivating yourself, you are summoning supernatural assistance. But in the same way, negative declarations give the enemy footholds. Small open doors he uses to magnify doubt or create unnecessary battles. This is why you cannot afford to speak based on emotions when you first rise. Emotion can be real, but it should never be sovereign. The believer must speak from revelation, not reaction. Morning words must come from understanding, not mood. There is also authority in early declarations. Because the day has not yet been shaped, your words have greater dominion. A sculptor shapes clay when it is soft, not after it has hardened. The morning is the soft clay of your day. You shape it before external influences stiffen it. If you wait until the day becomes chaotic before you pray or declare God's word, you are reacting rather than leading. The believer is called to lead the day, not chase after it. And leadership begins with speech. The authority of your morning words comes from the fact that they set the spiritual rhythm before the world gives you one. The morning is also the time when your subconscious is transitioning. Everything you meditated on the night before, everything you dreamt, everything your mind absorbed in rest finds expression when you wake. This is why many people wake with heaviness, confusion, or fear. It is the residue of battles fought silently during the night. But your first words act as a spiritual reset. They override the weight of the previous day. They silence the remnants of spiritual warfare. They declare that today is not a continuation of yesterday's pain, but a fresh expression of God's mercy. Your first words interrupt negative cycles and re-establish divine order. Even creation responds to morning words. There is a stillness that seems to listen, a quietness that receives. It feels as though heaven holds its breath, waiting for what you will authorize. And when your words align with God's will, the supernatural realm begins to organize the day in your favor. Opportunities open, discernment sharpens, strength rises, peace settles. The day begins to follow the script you declared, not the one the enemy intended. To understand the power of first words is to understand that your morning voice is not just your natural voice. It is your spiritual signature over the day. It is the sound that announces your alignment, your posture, your expectation, and your dependence on God. When you rise and speak truth, faith, and authority, you are not just beginning your day, you are commanding it. To establish dominion early in the day is to recognize that the morning is not meant to be a moment of reaction, but a moment of spiritual legislation. A believer does not wait for the day to define their emotions, their direction, or their atmosphere. They rise with the understanding that authority is exercised before the battles of the day arise, not after they overwhelm. Dominion is not simply about power, it is about posture, awareness, and intentionality. It is the decision to stand at the gates of the morning and decree the will of God before anything else attempts to speak. When you establish dominion early, you acknowledge that life responds to spiritual order. An order must be set before activity begins. The morning carries a unique vulnerability. The day has not yet taken shape. Circumstances have not yet unfolded. Encounters have not yet happened. This is the moment when spiritual vacuum exists, and that vacuum must be filled by intentional declarations. If you do not speak into your morning, something else will. Your fears will speak. Your past will speak. The pressures awaiting you will speak. But when you rise and establish dominion, you silence competing voices before they rise. You occupy the spiritual territory of the day before the world attempts to claim it. Dominion in the morning is not aggression, it is stewardship. It is the understanding that every new day is a territory placed under your influence, and like any territory, it requires governance. The believer must know that dominion is not merely exercised when problems appear. Dominion is exercised when you position yourself above what could have become a problem. Many of the battles people wrestle with could have been subdued if they had legislated the atmosphere earlier. When you speak over your day before challenges surface, you preemptively neutralize spiritual currents that seek to create obstacles. Dominion is not only about confronting, it is also about preventing. When you set your heart, your mind, and your spirit in alignment with God at dawn, you build a spiritual hedge that makes it difficult for confusion, fear, or frustration to take hold later in the day. Establishing dominion early also means resisting the temptation to begin your day emotionally. Emotions are real, but they are not reliable leaders. Dominion requires that you rise from a place of truth rather than feeling. You may wake up tired, but you declare strength. You may wake up uncertain, but you declare clarity. You may wake up with a weight on your heart, but you declare peace. You do not deny how you feel, but you refuse to allow how you feel to rule. Dominion means choosing what you want your day to become and speaking it into existence before your emotions attempt to dictate the outcome. When you establish dominion in the morning, you consciously take your place as a representative of God on earth. You take spiritual responsibility for the direction of your day. You acknowledge that there is an adversary who seeks to influence your atmosphere, but you refuse to give him the first voice. Dominion in the morning is the refusal to hand over your day to chance. It is the refusal to let circumstances decide your posture. It is the confidence that when you speak with authority, creation listens. Angels respond and the kingdom of darkness retreats. The morning is also the time when your spirit is most available to receive divine impulses. This makes it the perfect time to legislate. Heaven is attentive. The veil between your soul and the clarity of the spirit feels thinner. Insights come easily. Discernment is sharper. In this state, your declarations carry depth and weight. When you exercise dominion in this spiritual sensitivity, your words are not empty. They are charged with the influence of God's presence. Dominion exercised after prayer is dominion backed by heaven's resources. To establish dominion early is to decide what kind of day you will have spiritually before natural events attempt to shape it. You declare that no matter what happens externally, your internal atmosphere is already set. This becomes a shield. Unexpected challenges lose their power to destabilize. Sudden disappointments lose their power to discourage. The pressure of tasks loses its ability to overwhelm. Because when dominion is set, your spirit stands above the noise of the day, not beneath it. Dominion also involves commanding your environment. You speak over your family, your work, your responsibilities, your interactions. You declare alignment with God's will. You silence the voice of confusion. You command distractions to lose influence. You establish that your steps are ordered. You proclaim that your decisions carry wisdom. You set the tone for productivity, peace, and spiritual sensitivity. When these declarations are made early, they shape how you respond to everything that follows. Establishing dominion early also means recognizing that heaven honors consistency. When you rise daily to legislate your day, you build a pattern that strengthens your spiritual authority. The more consistent you become, the more your environment begins to align with your declarations. Your life becomes shaped not by reaction, but by intention. And that is the essence of dominion, shaping life through spiritual authority, not allowing life to shape you through circumstance. The believer who establishes dominion early never walks into the day unprepared. They step into it with a spiritual advantage. They move with clarity, confidence, and calmness. They have fortified themselves before the world presents its demands. They have aligned themselves before responsibilities pull them in different directions. They have taken charge before anything else tried to take charge of them. Establishing dominion early is the mark of a spiritually mature believer, one who understands that the morning is not just a beginning, it is a battleground of influence, and whoever lays claim to it first determines the rhythm of the entire day. Inviting divine presence at the start of the day is not a ritual. It is a lifeline. It is the conscious acknowledgement that without God's wisdom, strength, and covering, even the simplest tasks can become burdensome, and the smallest decisions can produce unnecessary consequences. To invite His presence is to declare your dependence before the demands of the day arise. It is to confess that no matter how gifted, skilled, or experienced you may be, you cannot navigate the complexities of life by intellect alone. The morning is the time to host God intentionally, because the presence you carry determines the atmosphere you walk in. Everything changes when God is invited early. Your mindset changes. Your emotions come under alignment. Your priorities settle. The noise of yesterday loses its grip. The fears of tomorrow lose their voice. The presence of God becomes the anchor that holds your day steady. There is a difference between acknowledging that God exists and intentionally inviting Him into your day. When you invite His presence, you are creating a space for Him to influence your thoughts, guide your steps, and govern your responses. You are saying, Lord, walk with me, speak to me, guide me, strengthen me. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. The strongest believers are those who have learned to lean on God consistently, not occasionally. The presence of God in the morning becomes like oil that lubricates the motions of the entire day. Decisions become clearer, peace becomes stable, discernment becomes sharper, temptations lose their power, and spiritual sensitivity increases. The difference between a chaotic day and a day of alignment often rests on whether the presence of God was intentionally welcomed before the day began. Inviting divine presence is also an act of surrender. It is the recognition that the day you are entering is not your own, it belongs to God. The plans you have made, the meetings you expect, the responsibilities you carry, the opportunities you anticipate, and even the challenges you do not foresee must all come under His influence. When you surrender your day to God, you are saying, I trust your timing, your wisdom, your protection, and your guidance. That posture releases a supernatural calmness that shields you from anxiety. Because when God is leading, you no longer feel the pressure to control everything. When His presence is with you, you do not fear the unknown. When He walks with you, the unpredictable becomes manageable because you're anchored in someone unchanging. The morning is also the best time to invite God because it is a moment of purity and quietness. Before the world begins to shout its demands, before notifications fill your screen, before responsibilities scatter your attention, there is a stillness that allows God to speak clearly. His whispers are more distinct. His presence is more tangible. Your heart is more open. This sensitivity is a gift, And those who value it rise early to meet with him. They understand that hosting God is easier before the day becomes crowded. When you give him the first part of your day, you establish him as the foundation of everything that follows. Inviting divine presence is not only about receiving guidance, it is about receiving covering. There are battles waiting that you are not aware of. There are traps the enemy sets that you will never see coming. There are spiritual influences that attempt to manipulate your day. But the presence of God becomes a shield. It becomes the fire that goes before you, the pillar that stands behind you, the protection that surrounds you. When God is present, what was meant to harm you loses its power. When you walk with him consciously, you carry an atmosphere that repels darkness. His presence becomes your security, your assurance, your invisible armor. Inviting his presence also prepares your spirit to love well. You cannot give what you have not received. Many people react harshly, speak carelessly, or respond emotionally throughout the day, not because they are bad people, but because they began their day empty. They did not allow God to fill their hearts with patience, wisdom, and grace. But when his presence saturates you in the morning, it becomes easier to respond with compassion, think with clarity, forgive quickly, and act with humility. The presence of God makes you a better version of yourself. It shapes your character while shaping your day. There is also guidance that only comes when God is invited intentionally. He directs your steps, not just your prayers. He warns you of danger. He nudges you away from wrong decisions. He amplifies the right opportunities. He gives you peace when your spirit is aligned, and restlessness when something is not from him. This level of guidance is only accessible when his presence is welcomed early. Those who rush into the day without him often struggle unnecessarily because they rely solely on logic, experience, or emotion, three things that cannot see beyond the moment. But the presence of God sees beyond time. It guards you from unseen consequences. It positions you for alignment. Inviting divine presence is also a declaration of loyalty. You are telling God that before you speak to anyone, before you work on anything, before you think about the tasks ahead, you choose him first. That choice honors him. It opens doors. It activates grace. Heaven responds to those who prioritize God early. His presence becomes the fragrance you carry into every space you enter. People may not understand why you are calm when others panic, why you are hopeful when others are discouraged, or why you navigate challenges with unusual insight. But the secret is simpler: you invited God before the day began. The presence of God also brings order to confusion. The mind that woke up scattered finds focus. The heart that woke up heavy finds relief. The soul that woke up restless finds peace. This is why the morning is not a time to rush, it is a time to receive. When you pause and let God fill your space, your spirit stabilizes. And when your spirit is stable, everything else comes into alignment. To invite God's presence in the morning is to acknowledge that you are not alone as you step into the day. His presence goes ahead of you, walks with you, and strengthens you. It is the greatest advantage a believer can have. Positioning for victory at the start of the day is an intentional spiritual posture that prepares your heart, mind, and spirit to move through the day with clarity, strength, and authority. Victory is not something that appears randomly. It is something that is cultivated. It is the result of alignment, preparation, and spiritual awareness. When a believer positions themselves for victory in the morning, they are acknowledging that although challenges may arise, setbacks may appear, and unexpected situations may unfold, they will not be victims of the day. They will be victors. This mindset is not rooted in pride, but in revelation. Understanding that God has already made provision for triumph, but that triumph must be accessed through partnership and posture. Positioning for victory begins internally before it manifests externally. It is in the morning that your heart must be steadied, your mind must be aligned, and your spirit must be strengthened. If you start your day spiritually empty, emotionally unsettled, or mentally scattered, even small pressures can feel overwhelming. But when you intentionally anchor your heart in faith and speak victory before the day unfolds, you prepare yourself to overcome whatever comes your way. Victory starts as a decision. It is the choice to stand on truth, not on what you feel. It is the choice to believe God's promises before circumstances have the chance to challenge them. It is the choice to declare stability even if you wake up feeling unstable. The morning becomes the moment where you build the foundation upon which the rest of the day will stand. Positioning for victory also requires spiritual awareness. A person who is spiritually dull moves through the day reacting to everything. But someone who is spiritually awake and sensitive can discern wrong atmospheres, detect distractions early, and maintain balance even in unexpected situations. Morning preparation sharpens that awareness. When you take time to pray, to declare God's word, and to align your thoughts with divine truth, your spirit becomes alert. You are able to sense when something is off. You notice when the enemy is trying to plant seeds of fear. You recognize when discouragement is trying to settle. And because you recognized it early, you confront it early. Victory is easier for those who do not wait for battles to intensify before they stand their ground. Victory is also connected to clarity. Many people lose battles not because they lack strength, but because they lack direction. They rush into the day without asking God for wisdom or seeking His perspective. They move from task to task without clarity, and confusion becomes a breeding ground for defeat. But when you position yourself for victory in the morning, you seek divine guidance before taking action. You allow God's perspective to shape your decisions. You ask for wisdom that goes beyond intellect. This clarity empowers you to avoid unnecessary mistakes, to handle responsibility with precision, and to walk confidently even when things seem uncertain. Clarity is a weapon, and it is sharpened in the morning. Positioning for victory also involves strengthening your inner man. There are days that require unusual courage, days that demand resilience, days that confront you with unexpected emotional weight. If your spirit is weak, even minor pressures can drain you. But morning preparation fills your inner man with strength. It allows faith to rise above fear. It allows peace to silence anxiety. It allows joy to override heaviness. When your inner man is strong, victory becomes your default response. You do not break easily. You do not panic quickly. You do not become overwhelmed by what intimidates others. Strength within produces victory outward. Another aspect of positioning for victory is guarding your atmosphere. The atmosphere you carry determines the battles you attract and the victories you experience. A person carrying anxiety attracts more confusion. A person carrying peace disrupts tension. A person carrying faith weakens the influence of discouragement. The morning is where you build that atmosphere. Through prayer, worship, and declaration, you create a spiritual environment that travels with you. That environment influences conversations, decisions, interactions, and even the type of attacks the enemy attempts. When you carry the right atmosphere, negativity struggles to grip you. Chaos struggles to shake you. Darkness struggles to find a foothold. Victory becomes easier because the very atmosphere you carry resists defeat. Positioning for victory also involves protecting your focus. Distraction is one of the most effective weapons the enemy uses. Not all battles come in the form of storms. Some come in the form of small diversions that steal your time, dilute your energy, and blur your direction. When you prepare your spirit in the morning, you confront distraction before it appears. You establish what matters. You give your attention to what aligns with your purpose. You silence noise before noise silences your progress. Focus is a victory strategy, and those who protect their focus early are better equipped to walk in purpose throughout the day. Victory is also connected to expectation. What you expect determines what you attract. If you expect failure, small obstacles will feel like confirmations. If you expect defeat, challenges will look final. But when you position yourself for victory in the morning, you cultivate an expectation of triumph. You expect God's help, you expect breakthroughs, you expect peace, you expect favor. And this expectation shifts the way you interpret the events of your day. Instead of seeing obstacles as endings, you see them as opportunities. Instead of seeing delays as denials, you see them as divine timing. Expectation shapes interpretation, and interpretation shapes experience. Positioning for victory means refusing to walk into the day spiritually passive. It is understanding that the spiritual realm is active whether you engage it or not. But when you engage it early, you walk with authority. You do not merely hope for victory. You prepare for it, you declare it, you align with it, and you walk into the day expecting it. And that expectation influences how heaven responds to you. When God finds a heart that is aligned, a spirit that is prepared, and a mouth that declares victory, He releases grace, strength, and favor that accompany you through day. To position yourself for victory each morning is to recognize that life will not always give you what you desire, but that God will always give you what you prepare for. And when you prepare your spirit early, you position your entire day to align with victory.